So, hopefully, I have just gone live here on YouTube. Let's just have a little look. Something should be working. I think we're good. I had a few tech issues as usual. I just need to check in with Melissa, so apologies. I usually would come here a little bit early and just make sure everything's working, but everything went completely wrong, and then the camera stopped working and everything else stopped working. So I've got our awesome Melissa Fox on the other end, and she's just told me everything seems to be working fine, so that's fantastic. Wow, look at you guys showing up, that's amazing. I'm just going to hold off just for a moment before we get going. My apologies for being a bit late. So yeah, I'm just going to hang out here. So what went completely wrong? I'm broadcasting to you from Emma's house, who is my PA on the business side. Melissa is my assistant on the photography and social media type side. Emma is away on holiday, so I came over early with lighting equipment and all sorts of stuff like that. I'd almost arrived, and it's a 45-minute drive, and went, ah, I've left her door key at home. So, you know, I had to turn round and fly home. I haven't brought the lighting equipment, I'm just using a window. And I raced back here on one of my motorcycles, and I've just made it, and then of course all sorts of techie things went wrong. So hello all you lovely people. It's nice to see you, Ian Gogan, as usual, and many, many others. Wow, look at you all. Hello, hello, hello to all of you, scattered around all over the world. Hi from Malaysia, hi from Finland. You know, this is so moving for me. All of you guys showing up to come to listen, so thank you for doing that. And thank you for, you know, wanting to find out what's going on, wanting to see what travel photography is about and my approach with it. So I'm hoping you'll get lots of value from that. So I'm going to have a little talk through a few things. I'm going to talk to you about what is travel photography. I'm going to show you a few things that I use, my kit, and it's pretty basic. And yeah, we're going to do a question and answer on the end. So forgive me if I look away from you. I'm looking into the camera now, but I'm having to operate my broadcast software and look at your comments and look at other things all around the screen. So apologies when I break eye contact. So hello all of you. Hello. Wow, look at you all. Okay, let me just tidy up my screen, and I think we'll be able to get going. I need to move that one. Melissa's going to be sending me your questions. That's the point, questions for the Q&A session. As I say something which you think, oh, I want to ask about that, please pop it into the, you know, type it in straight away, because our awesome Melissa Fox is there waiting for them. When they arrive, by all means, please just send them to her. She will then forward them on to me, because I can't watch them going past in live real time. It's too fast, it's too quick. I've got too many other jobs to do. Right, let me just move Melissa down there out of the way. Sorry, Melissa. You're going to see a picture of Melissa a bit later on, by the way. Right, so where are we? So what is travel photography? What is that all about? Well, the Photographic Society of America defines a travel photo as an image that expresses the feeling of a time and place, portrays a land, its people, or a culture in its natural state. So I guess that's a little bit of everything. And that's really why I love it so very much. I think this is an incredible, amazing world in which we live, and I would assert that for most of us, the dream is to go and experience as much of it as we possibly can, and to capture that. So travel photography is about how we live in the world. When we travel, I think it's a little bit of a shame if we just go and look at the places. Of course, there's some beautiful, wonderful places. But how do different cultures and people live in those places? What do they do? So landscape is undeniably a part of travel photography, but so is food, so is streets, so is everything. And that's probably why I like it, because it's a little bit of everything. But yeah, the whole landscape thing, it is pretty amazing, but this is a location that Melissa and I recce'd last November for the forthcoming workshop in Asia. This is Tra Su Forest. Now, it's a magical and incredible place, and I love the trees, I like the light, and I like the mistiness going on back there in the distance. And there's that little bit of sort of collapsed dock on the left. But I do think it is an awful lot more powerful once you include somebody who lives there. Someone for whom this place is just normal, you know? For you, your local environment where you live is just normal. You may appreciate it and love it, you may not. But nonetheless, it's just normal. And so for this guy, Ben, actually, his name is, who's rowing that boat, this is just normal, you know? And I think that's part of the magic of travel photography. It's about experiencing our world with wonder and sharing that with the viewer. That, to me, is the objective. It's to move or touch someone with your sense of wonder. And there is wonder in everything. Melissa said to me the other day, if you look closely enough at sand on a beach, and you get in really tight and you really study it, you find a whole wealth of pocket universes going on in there. And that's probably why macro photography is so incredibly popular. It's seeing and experiencing something differently. It's a different world, a different universe. So what do I use to shoot travel photography with? Let's just go through that first. Now, I'm not going into mega depth about tons and tons of things. I'm sure if you've been around my stuff for a while, you will know that my go-to tool is my little XT Fuji with an 18 to 55mm lens. There it is. That is about it. That is the very camera that took that picture you were just seeing of Ben in the boat in Tra Su Forest. Same lens, same everything. I don't use a camera strap. I find they're a pain in the neck. They get in the way, they flap about, and just as you want to take a shot, you turn the camera and the strap gets in the way and I want to scream. So I just use a little wrist strap like that. You just pop it through my wrist. And there's another reason why I find these so useful. Because I can dangle the camera sort of like that on my wrist, and I know it's safe, there may be times when I want to get something out of my pocket quickly, and because I know I've got my little wrist strap, I can just let go and I know nothing's going to happen to it. It's completely safe. And I'm not going to try and do this now, but if you're standing up and you practice enough, you can kind of do like a quick draw. It didn't really work. Teach me to say I'm not going to do something and then do it, won't it? But anyway, that's the camera that I use for my travel photography. I use my little Fuji X-T2. I very rarely change lens. Nearly everything that you're going to see now, I will tell you if it's different, but I think everything you're about to see was taken with the 18 to 55mm lens. There is a link below this live where you can go and look at a whole load of my images. Nearly all of them were taken with the 18 to 55. If you bring up the EXIF metadata when you're looking at them, you'll see the vast majority of the 18 to 55. However, I do recommend having a couple of other lenses with you in your bag. You may not carry them around with you when you're shooting. I don't want to carry a big bag around with me when I'm shooting. I want to be able to be light, unobtrusive and move around. One of the reasons I like the Fuji is it's small and it's unobtrusive. I don't want to be lugging, I don't know if I can show you this, my backpack. So that's my backpack that I use there. That's what I put stuff in. But let's have a look. I don't know if I can do this without everything falling out. This is a risk. So, you know, you can see there's not much in there really, is there? But I would carry with me a wide angle lens. This one is a 10 to 24, bear in mind the Fuji is a crop sensor, and a 55 to 200 as well. Very rare I use them, but it's useful to have them with you. Now, as I said, I don't carry a bag on my back when I'm actually out shooting. I tend to wear a pair of cargo pants with the big baggy pockets on the side, you know the things? Because I can just shove a lens in there, and if I need to change lens in a hurry, then I will do that, and I can just shove it in my pocket. No messing around with bags. It means you haven't got to look around to see where your bag is. You've got to keep putting it on your back and knocking things over, particularly if you're in a busy environment. Lens cloth. Always take one of these with me, in my pocket, in my baggy pants pocket. because sometimes you do need to clean the lens quite a lot. Now I use a microfiber lens cloth. I know there's all sorts of things on the internet saying that microfiber attracts grit and dust. Don't ever use them. Tell me a fabric that doesn't attract and hold grit and dust. I don't. I've been using that. That is a microfiber dishcloth I actually bought in a supermarket on a workshop. I'm using it for years. It's fine. The thing is, you've got to wash them. Of course you're going to damage things if it's full of grit and stuff and you keep rubbing your lens with it, you know. Wash the damn thing. Sometimes when I'm, you know, in Asia, when we're on, you know, the Vietnam or the Cambodia workshop or something, I wash my lens cloths every day pretty much, you know. I just come back, get in the shower, give it a scrub while I'm in there, hang it up to dry, ready to go tomorrow, you know. Microfiber lens cloth, plenty of cards, plenty of spare batteries. And to be honest, that's about it. I sometimes very, very occasionally use a polarizing filter, but it is so rare it's not true. I don't think there's anything in the gallery link below which has got a polarizing filter being used on it. Cleaning stuff. Yep, I have my little puffer. There you go, so I can puff and make sure my sensor gets, the sensors will get dust on them, you know, so I can puff it. I usually have some sensor cleaning swabs too, just in case, particularly in a hot, humid environment, you know. It's very tempting to, you come back to your hotel room and the camera's all hot and damp, you know, or rather you come out of your hotel room, sorry, and the atmosphere's all hot and damp. You take your camera out and think, oh, I just need to change the lens. You've just immediately got condensation over everything. So I always carry cleaners. What else do I always take with me? I mentioned things that I wear. Now, let me have a look. I need to find somebody's name here because I was asked to do this. This started off as a laugh. I can't find it. My apologies. Somebody said to me on a Facebook post, wear that silly ass Rambo headband that you have seen me wearing. And here it is, the very headband. I actually bought it in Cambodia in a market. It is a girl's headband. But I'm not joking. I might look like a knob, but it is such a valuable addition. It is something which I recommend you have in a hot country. It's sweaty, it's wet. Do you want your sweat running down over your viewfinder and getting in the way, getting in your eyes, stinging your eyes? You know, it gets all over the back of the camera, makes it all smeary and dirty, and it's much harder to work. If you don't mind looking a little bit of a knob, and you've got a sweatband on, my Rambo sweatband, then you know, it stops that happening. You can easily just whip it off if it does get wet. You just, you know, wring it out, bung it back on again. Get on with the job. Also take plenty of spare batteries. These are really, I take these batteries for my video equipment. A couple of spare cards. Oh, and the other thing, really important, I always make sure I have external hard drives so that everything is backed up. Don't just leave stuff on your laptop. What happens if you lose the laptop? The laptop gets stolen. What happens if it gets corrupted? What happens if you drop it and break it? Always, 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 always back up everything. So that's it really. That is my kit. Now the camera tools of travel photography, the same as they are for any other genre of photography. You've got a focal length, you know, which one's appropriate for the shot you want to take. You've got your different autofocus modes, which are wonderful things. Which autofocus mode are you going to use for the shot you're going to take? Is something moving? Do you need to track it? Do you just want a single point? What? You know, there are many options to choose from and they're all brilliant. You've got your aperture and your shutter to control depth of field and movement and how you wish to portray that. And then you've got your ISO left over so that you can compensate for those choices for the exposure that you need. There are also times when you may wish to use program aperture modes. I quite often use program mode if I'm in a fast changing environment and the light's changing a lot, because I don't want to miss shots while I'm fiddling around doing things manually. However, if the light is constant, I would strongly recommend shooting in manual mode, because you only have to set the exposure once for any subject and you can forget it. You've just got to keep one eye half open, make sure the light doesn't change. Someone said to me about a photo shoot I did when the guys who rowed across the Atlantic came up the water, said, why aren't you using an auto mode instead of a manual mode, because you know you're having to work so fast? It's because if I include more sky, it's bright, the camera will see the brightness and it will then underexpose the subject. If I include more ground, which was really dark, the camera will see all the darkness and it will then overexpose the subject. If you set it manually and the light's not changing, You've done it. Job done. Forget it. Move on. Concentrate on the photography. Because these things are not photography. These are photographers' tools. Then there are photographer tools. That's you and me tools. That's stuff that we do. The most important aspect in all of photography is the photographer, regardless of which genre. Our observational skills, looking around, seeing what's going on, how we use light and composition, where we stand, the decisive moment. And trust me, there are decisive moments in all genres of photography, pretty much. Even in landscape, you're waiting for that moment when the light's just right, when the sun does what you want it to do. With our friend here, Ben the boatman, it's the decisive moment. Look at those little patches of light going up through the trees. Now, I wanted to capture him just as he entered into one of these little pools of light. Had it been a moment earlier, you wouldn't see his face, it would be too dark. Had it been a moment later, same again, he'd have hit an area of shade. Watch, observe. Decisive moments are so critically important. The other great thing, is it's the photographer's job to look at how the camera tools are assembled. I just mentioned aperture and shutter. Your aperture controls how much front to back sharpness you want, your depth of field, or it's one of the main fine tuning controls. And your shutter speed controls how you want to portray movement. Do you want things to move and blur? Do you want to do a pan shot with people, going down the street? What do you want to do? It's the photographer's job to think through those things and then set those controls appropriately. Your thinking has to be fluid. It has to change all the time. You've got to be aware of your surroundings. The other hugely important tool is, of course, you and how you engage with your surroundings. You really must engage with your surroundings. I'm going to show you a picture in a moment. Forgive me, I'm just setting up a shot to show you. But I mean, this lady here, look at her shrieking with laughter. She's got my XT2 in her hands and looking at a picture I'd just taken of her. Those are the cargo pants, by the way. You can see my green baggy cargo pants. Engage with the people around you. Travel photography is about, travel, the people, where they live. Engage with them, because they will give you their best if you do. Now, forgive me, I told you right at the beginning I had all sorts of problems when I arrived, and trying to get live on air in time meant I forgot to plug in my laptop. So you're watching me completely cock up and get things wrong, and I'm hoping there is a plug socket under the table. So you have a nice look at that lady there just for one moment while I plug in my laptop. There we go. Hopefully we've still got a connection. Yeah, we have. Good. Right, let's plug that in. So apologies for that, guys. That was completely unprofessional. But things go wrong, eh? Right. Minor crisis, easily solved. So where did I get to? Yeah, it's you. How you engage with your environment determines how your environment responds to you. And this is throughout all of the different aspects of travel photography. So let's have a little think for a moment. Sunsets and sunrises, they are always popular, but they still require you to think about what you're doing and possibly engage with the people. Now, if this was just a shot of a sunset in this case, and it's out in the farmlands just outside Siem Reap where we run our workshops in Asia, or the Cambodia bit anyway. And you have these wonderful pools in the rice paddies where you get these fabulous reflections. Now, it could just be a picture of a reflection of a sunset, but just by including that little house, we're now saying something about humanity and humanity's connection with that location, where they live. It gives a little hint as to what life there may be like, rather than just being a sunset all on its own with a reflection. I use the edges of the rice paddy pool to come in like this, as kind of like to hold it together, so it's like framing in, and I made sure the house is just a little bit below centre. We don't really want it right smack in the middle, do we? And that is what it was like. It was an amazing sky we had that evening. If you're shooting raw, and I strongly recommend you do, it can be very tempting to use too much dehaze and overdo these things. Post-production is really where you want to bring about part of your experience and share that with your viewer, share that sense of wonder. And if you overdevelop, that's not going to work. What you are feeling and thinking at the time you shoot is the thing you want to try and share. Now, if you're thinking and feeling, oh God, I don't know, I hope this is a good one, never mind, I might be able to fix it later on in Lightroom, what you're going to have is a picture that looks like you weren't paying attention and looks like you fixed it in Lightroom later on. Think things through, take a bit of time. Now that's fine when you're in a landscape environment like this, where there is a little bit more time. There are still decisive moments, you know, where is the sun, what is going on, what is the light doing. This maybe a couple of minutes later, the sun would have been further down behind the cloud and it didn't look quite so good, in my opinion. But what about a fast moving environment where there's lots of stuff going on? This is a pretty simple environment, but what about somewhere that's actually quite confusing? This is Train Street in Hanoi in Vietnam, and we went down there to go and have a look. It's a little narrow street, as you can see, with a railway line running straight down through the middle. There is not much space and it's quite confined, it's quite busy, it's quite crowded, and I was like, how am I going to capture the essence of this? Don't just rock up and take a picture. Take test shots. I'm about to show you some test shots I took and the shot which they led me to in the end. Always use this thing. So I thought, okay, it's Train Street. Let's do the obvious. Let's use these railway tracks so that we're saying a little bit of something about where we are. We're in a street and it's got a railway line running through it. Okay, good. I'm shooting well over 5,000 ISO, and it's still a slow enough shutter speed to allow that person who's moving on the left there to blur. And I kind of like it. I'm not saying it's a bad shot. I kind of like it. But to me, it doesn't quite capture the feeling, the wonder of Train Street. So I just carried on. You just keep going. And the next shot I took several shots just of people and, you know, what they do in this place. This is where they live. This is what they consider to be normal life. This is like you standing in your garden and thinking, why does this idiot want to take a picture of me standing in my garden? What's special about this? That's what that lady is thinking about me. She's standing in front of a house. You can see through the door. There's, I don't know, I guess it's her husband or somebody sitting there probably watching TV. And yet there isn't a road outside her house. There's this railway line. So I shot a couple of pictures of people in this sort of environment. Now across the street from this lady's house there is a bar, and it's very popular with backpackers. And I just thought it was also part of the life of Train Street. You know, these guys are all stood there waiting for a train to come, they're having a few beers, and as you can see, they couldn't give a toss that I was taking their picture. They just thought it was funny and they're laughing at me and all this sort of thing. This is another thing to think about as well, guys, because when you're traveling, it's really easy for us to think about the culture we're going into in the same terms as the culture we live in. Now, in my culture here, if I stood outside a bar or a pub and just started photographing strangers, I'd probably get someone go, why are you taking my picture? But, you know, leave those fears behind. You have to sort of disconnect that thought and come with an open mind. We don't know what's going to happen, but we do know for sure that if we don't do something, nothing will happen. So I took a few pictures of the backpackers in the little bar across the street, and then this girl come up and she said, hey, come on, you need to get out of the street now. There's going to be a train coming any minute. And I love her energy, the way she's engaging with me. I also like the girl, you know, the backpacker girl sitting on the other side of the railway track. She's watching her interacting with me. Now, the gentleman who looks like he's going to punch someone is my partner in crime, Simon Taplin, who's one of the loveliest guys in the world. I don't know why it is, but whenever I take a picture with Simon in it, somehow he looks like he's going which is not like Simon at all. But I still like it. I like the way Simon is stood there with a beer in his hand and his camera in his hand. He's looking down the street and he's probably having, I don't know, similar thoughts to me about, you know, how shall I approach this? Simon is currently in Singapore, and by the way, I forgot to say, he sends his apologies because we were going to do this together. Unfortunately, we couldn't find a quick and easy way to make a trans-global link work for a live broadcast, so I'm doing it on my own. But yeah, so that's Simon. This girl said, the train's coming any minute. And you can see behind her, she's got a plate or something in her right hand. You see there's some people sitting on little stools and things. Now, almost immediately after this, people started putting away the little stools and things and getting their backs to the wall because a train started coming through. So again, this is kind of like the obvious shot. But is it saying anything about the life of Train Street? Not really. What it is saying is there's a lot of people there, a lot of tourists and backpackers with their phones and stuff. Look at the guy in the white shirt to the right of the picture. You know, he's holding his phone back at a distance, getting ready. He's doing the old, you know, hey, look at me, I'm cool, I'm going on Facebook. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. But is that saying anything about the people who live there? Is that saying anything about the place and the people for whom this is completely normal? Anyway, I shot this as the train was coming towards me. I shot another one as it got closer. I completely got it wrong. You can see there's really quite bad camera shake going on in there. It didn't really quite work. But here's the thing. By taking those test shots, and there were more, they led me to a place. They got me to understand Train Street. They got me to think, okay, I've had a train come through. The shots, they're okay. They didn't really work that well. But they got me to understand it and to notice it. I find it's easier to notice things when I photograph them. I see the world differently when I'm taking pictures rather than just walking around. That's why I bang on about taking test shots. Now, a little bit up the street from where is she? I can't find her. Here we go. A little tiny bit up the street from where, forgive me, I'm trying to operate my system and I'm not doing very well here. I'm having to talk to you and operate a kind of edit suite to change these pictures. Now, just to her right, to the left of the picture and out of shot, there was another little bar. And there was a bunch of guys sitting on the little plastic tables and they're all having a few beers and they're chatting. And I thought, there were no tourists near them, and I just thought, well, what's their reaction to when a train comes through? And moved to my left a little and started lining things up and thinking, I wonder what will happen when a train arrives. And so all my test shots led me to what I believe to be the money shot. To me, this is something about Train Street. So again, somebody shouted, train coming, and all the little stools and tables hurriedly got put away, you know, out of sight, out the way. These guys with their drinks in hands just stood with their backs to the wall, and this time a truly massive train came through. Now, you don't need to see the whole train to know that it's a train, and the thing which I really like with this shot is just the way they're caught in the glare of that single massive cyclopean eye of a headlight, the harshness of the light that's sort of shining down on them, and the size of the train. Look at it, the top of the buffer is almost as high as they are tall. You know, the second story of the building, the engine cowling itself is higher than the second story of the building. How do those houses stand up? How do they not fall apart when a massive thing like this comes rumbling through, you know? How many people get killed there? I don't know. It's a question I wished I'd asked. I very much doubt there are that many fatalities because it's normal to them. To you and I, it's crazy. To you and I, it's like, oh my God, how can anyone live here? You know, what happens if you just walk out into the street without looking? When it's normal to you, you do look, you do pay attention, you do notice the vibrations. These are the sorts of things you have to try and get your mind into that space so that you begin to notice things and can capture a feeling, an essence of a place. Let's just take another look at a very similar location. We were driving in the mountains in the north of Vietnam. This was on the most recent workshop we did there. And we came around a corner, a little road, and there's a whole bunch of villagers there harvesting and threshing the rice by the side of the road. So, you know, we just pulled in and grabbed a camera and out we jumped and started looking at it to see, you know, okay, well, how can this work? I took obviously more test shots. This is the first of a sequence of test shots I want to show you. Now, obviously I took more shots, but I'm going to cut them down a bit, otherwise we'll be here all night. What I liked with this one is I like the 3 mopeds. They're kind of leading back to the stack of rice. And I was framing it up and watching and wishing the guy with the white shirt wasn't there because he's a little bit too dominant. But then suddenly a little decisive moment popped up when the 2 ladies in the sampan hats just turned back to go and get the next sheaves of rice. I like it, it's okay, it says something about the place. However, it's not really capturing the full experience. It was hot, it was humid, it was sticky. There was loads and loads of dust in the air from where they're threshing the rice. There's dust in the air, there were grains flying around. And to me, this shot is totally lacking that feeling, that experience that I was so, wondering about. So I moved in closer and started shooting a few portraits. That's the lady who was laughing at me when I was wearing my pants a couple of shots earlier. I showed her this shot and she's going, ah! So I've got in closer. You can see somebody waving a sheave up in the air behind the guy in the pith helmet. I like the light on their faces. But again, it's somehow missing that experience of hot, of dusty, of work, of the rice flying in the air. So I got in closer again and you can see the threshing table where the guys are working. You can see to the right of the shot over that bit of blue tarpaulin that's snuck in there, grains of rice bouncing up and down where they're threshing the rice. But it still isn't capturing that hot dusty feeling that I was so after. But look at their faces. This is what I mean about observational skills. Look at their faces. The light is coming from their left. That's your right as you're looking at the shot. You see, one side of the face is bright, the other side is darker. You have to learn to look at light because light isn't just a photographic wonder and tool. Light is also a huge indicator as to what's going on. So the light is coming to my right, that's their left. You can see the bright side of the face. Next thing, what happens when you put light through dust or humidity? It magnifies it, doesn't it? So all I had to do was move to my left, round sort of to the right of the guy in the pith helmet, and boom. Suddenly, all that humidity and dust and excitement that was going on in the world is there. I framed it purposely with him tight in the corner. It's not like I missed my shot. I did do that. By the way, none of these are cropped. None of these images have been cropped. These are as shot in camera. I'm much too lazy to crop things, and as I've really got to. I put him there on purpose because I wanted space for that dusty, humid stuff that was going on. We got the lady behind him sort of about to whack a great sheaf of rice down on the threshing table. So for me, that for me was the money shot because that was the experience I was having. We were amongst friendly people. You could see that from their smiles. But also it was hot, it was humid, it was a place of work. It was a place where for these guys, well, this is just normal, yeah, we thresh our crops by the side of the road. What, you don't do that in England? What's the matter with you? That to me is part of the essence of travel photography. It's telling a story of wonder about how someone else experiences their world. To us it's a miracle, it's weird, it's crazy, to them it's different. I've got a few more shots here I want to show you, but I'm not going to be going through the whole test shot routine. You may have seen this one before because it is a regular one. It is one of my favourites. This is in Angkor Wat Temple. It's a magnificent place, World Heritage Site. It's a very difficult place to photograph because it's big, it's sprawly, it covers a vast area, and there can be places where there's an awful lot of tourists as well at times, but it is a spectacular place. Now I've been trying to photograph the monks. The monks play some little games there because they must be a bit bored sometimes. They will quite often spot a photographer, raise a camera, they'll do something statuesque and look at you, and then as you bring the camera up they'll laugh and shout, "No photo!" and they'll run off and peek round a corner at you or something. It's really infuriating. But that means it's often good to be a little bit more candid. I was in this courtyard, I'd taken several shots, they weren't quite bringing together what I wanted. So climbed up to a higher level in a doorway overlooking the courtyard. Now you may be able to see at the bottom of those steps a little bit of worn grass. There's a little pathway running across that grass and it runs right across that courtyard. What does a pathway tell us? Observational skill. Come on, you've got to use these things. A path tells us people walk down it. Okay, so I wonder if I wait here long enough, will someone walk down it? It leads to that doorway, and what have we got in that doorway? We've got a wonderful frame in a frame. We can frame up someone in that doorway. Wouldn't that just be amazing? So yeah, I had to sit and I waited. And I spent the time just sort of lining up the shot, making sure I got my focal length about right. I'm pretty sure this is only about 55 millimeters, maybe slightly less. But just lined up the shot, made sure I got my composition ready. I didn't want any sky in the shot because that's just going to detract. This is nice and simple. We've got black, we've got a little bit of dull green and orange, you know? That tiny piece of orange, the man's tiny, because Angkor Wat is vast and I wanted that feeling to come across it. But he's orange, you know? Therefore, he pops and stands out. So it's just a question of waiting, get the exposure ready, make sure, check the histogram. You don't want to cock this up. And then sure enough, a monk came ambling across the grass. He doesn't know I'm there because I'm up here somewhere, sitting in a doorway watching. And he just walked up. Now, the decisive moment, I did do a couple of shots as he walked up, but I'm not sure where they are. And, they're not very good. The decisive moment for me was as he's putting his weight on that foot on the step and he's leaning in. It's showing a relationship between himself and the doorway and the building. There's no movement in this shot because the shutter speed's fast enough to freeze it. However, it is showing a relationship. It is showing movement, even though it's been frozen in time. And we've got him framed in the pillar of the, I don't know what you call it, portico, isn't it? Porch seems hardly strong enough. And the blackness of the door, that amazing black of the stonework. It is an astonishing place. We have another, this is a sunset as well, a totally different sunset to the one we looked at earlier, because this one was more like the farmers. It happened quickly. Now, I could see the sunset. We're on a boat, a bit like the fishermen, and we're going bang, 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 up the lake. We can see that amazing stormy sky with the little chinks and gaps and the brilliant sunlight and that incredible cathedral lighting coming down from the sky. And I did take a shot, but it was kind of sterile because there was no people in it. It wasn't saying anything about how do people live here? What is the experience of this being normal? But up ahead in this direction, sorry, I'm not very good, in that direction, I could see these fishermen. And so it was just simply a case of a couple of test shots, check the exposure, check the histogram, get it as good as it needs to be, make sure my shutter speeds is all good, everything I need's good. And then as our boat, so they're here, and as our boat came up this way, bam, you know, we get alongside, bam, shoot the shot. Again, I've left them small on purpose. The temptation might be to put on a long lens and try and zoom in, but if you're on a boat that's bobbing up and down and moving around, you're going to have a blurry picture. You're also going to miss that whole experience of being out on a great big lake with a great big sky with this incredible sunset. Humanity is a small and insignificant thing on this planet. I'm sorry, but it is. And I think by giving people space, you can sort of give some of that experience. Here's another one of some fishermen, different lake. This one was in Burma on that workshop. But a similar situation whereby we were belting up the lake in this direction, and from where I was, I could see the fishermen up in front. But because of the angle, they were hidden one behind the other. Bam, 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 like this. So it's just, again, a case of test shot, exposure, get it right, get everything ready, think about what the composition is, and then you're ready for that moment when our boat, so we've got a row like this of fishermen, and then our boat comes along, we line up behind them, and boink, got it. There was also a little element of luck because the fella on the right hand boat happened to turn to talk to his colleague on his left, the fella in the blue shirt. And I just love it because it creates a little connection going on within the picture. That is actually one of my favourite images. Just sticking with the theme for a moment of small. This is on the bridge into the main entrance of Angkor Wat. We came out, we were leaving actually, and it was raining fairly hard. But it just fascinated me. It's evening time. People are coming home from their work. They're on this lake. It's called a barai. And they're coming up the lake in these little boats and then turning sharp right and tying up on the riverbank. Again, the temptation might be to put on a long lens and try and zoom right in on them. But for my thoughts are, you're losing an experience What about that sky? What about the weather? What about the clouds? What about the forest? What about where they are? It's a bit gloomy, but they're standing out on the water. And so consequently, I shot it with a wider, a shorter lens. I don't know what it is. I don't know what the focal length was, the right one, but it was with my 18 to 55. Portraits are wonderful things. This guy was 85 years old and he was cutting wood by the roadside as we drove through. We all piled off the van to go and take some pictures. But think about, when you shoot a portrait, where does he live? Give a little bit of space around him. Don't just go in tight and head and shoulders. Where does this man live? What does he do? You can see the rice terraces behind him and the river winding through the valley behind him. Let's say a little bit about where this man lives. We visited a village of Hmong people, the Hmong people, and it was just fantastic seeing again where they live. This is a different sort of a portrait. We're going full length. These ladies standing under the eaves of the little house. Now think, light, one of our most important tools. What's the light doing? Well, because the light, there's a, what's it called, overhangy bit on the building, it's blocking down light. So they've got this beautiful front light coming in front of them. I love the way they're so at ease with us. I'm guessing the older woman is the younger woman's mother. We're not posing them, we didn't tell them to hold hands. They just stood there and they just completely naturally invited us into their world. Again, by giving a little bit of space, not so much as the guys outside of Angkor Wat, but by giving them a bit of space, by showing the cage where they keep the chickens and the bundle of firewood and the doors. We're saying a little bit about their life, a little bit about where they live, rather than just face, here's a face, Let's tell a little bit of a story. Let's share a little bit of an experience. Also, because they're standing in front of a door, they are self-framing. We've got a frame and a frame going on, haven't we? Absolutely marvellous. Now, one of the old gold rules is do not put things in the middle. Well, let's break a few, shall we? We were talking about light in the last picture. This is somewhere, when Melissa and I were doing the recce for this year's Asia workshop, we came across this wonderful, beautiful, fabulous man. He's a Buddhist, and he'd invited us into his home and showed us around this beautiful place and given us lunch along with our fixer and our driver. Sorry, my brain's gone blank. I'm sorry guys, because I know you're going to be watching. He gave us lunch, and then afterwards he was sitting there making us tea, and again the front of the house was open and you've got this beautiful light coming in. Look at the light, it's such gentle light and it's caressing his face, and it absolutely matches the serenity of his expression. Now, I have put him in the middle because I also want to see, where does he live? What is this man's life like? What does it look like? There he is, surrounded by his possessions. This is us in his house. He is making us tea, and I think the composition works with him in the middle because he is surrounded by his possessions. You've got the stairs going upstairs to the left of the shot, above the chest, and if you look at the right side of the shot, there is a wooden pillar and it's cut in half. That is on purpose. I used that wooden pillar because it just kind of anchored it. I think had the shot gone beyond the wooden pillar, then the wooden pillar would be annoying. It would be a distraction. Why is it there? So again, just a tiny movement in where you stand and how much focal length you apply, you can just boom, do it in the camera, bam, got it, lovely job, awesome. But you've got to use your observational skills, and you've also of course got to be in the right place at the right time. Details play a very strong part. This is this man's oven. When I first walked over there, oh my God, there's a dead cat in his oven. But it wasn't, it was just sitting there snoozing gently, his little belly going up and down. But also it's like, give a little bit of space, don't get in so tight. It would be tempting maybe to zoom right in on the cat, but now we've just got a cat in something without the kettle to tell us that it is an oven, that you cook things, it's an area of heat. We don't know where that cat is. So use a little bit of thought. Composition is your friend, it's your tool. It helps you communicate your sense of wonder and the amazing things that you've seen and have done. Also, patience is incredibly important. I took this one a while ago on a workshop. One of our regulars, Marie, if you're watching, Marie, hi. good to shoot this with you. It was actually Marie who spotted this, said, hey look, guys over there. I said, do you want to shoot it? She goes, no, I'm too lazy. But I did. I loved the sky. I loved these young boys standing on top of the wall. But what are they doing there? Now you can see the little fella on the right of the shot is holding a kite. And the one on the other end is looking up at the sky. And if your screen is big enough, you may see just the faintest little hint of the kite wire going up into the sky. So again, it's just a case of frame the shot, a couple of tests, maybe make sure you've got your exposure ready to rock, your histogram's looking good, you kind of know what you want to do, you want to engage them, and then just hang on a moment, because as soon as the little fella on the right launched his kite, it gives it a whole new dynamic, a whole new thing. There's nothing wrong with the first shot, but this one just gave it another dynamic. I'm only going to do a couple more of these guys because then I want to sort of move on to a bit of Q&A for you. But I did want to show you this place. It's Chow Dock floating market on the Mekong River. And again, this was Melissa and I were exploring it, wrecking it, and we put it onto the location for this this October, whenever it is, workshop we're doing out there. It's a busy place. The traders come up the river with these big boats laden with bananas and rice and all sorts of trade goods. And the people in Chow Dock come out on their boats and they do business, and they're all busy. It's a busy, manic, crazy place. It's a wonderful river, the Mekong, because at this point you're looking down it into the sunrise, and in the evening you're looking up it into the sunset. You just love it when that happens. But the tricky bit here was to isolate little tableaus within the busyness of it. A big wide shot with loads and loads of crazy busyness going on can be confusing. So I wanted to find something which sort of said, yeah, this is busy, but it wasn't cluttered. And so it's about moving around and looking. We kind of rode around in our little boat for quite a long time, observing, seeing what's going on before shooting the pictures. And all the time doing some test shots. This is a very, very contrasty situation. I don't believe I could have caught this just as a straight JPEG. It is only one shot. It's not an HDR or anything like that. It's just one shot, but it is right on the extreme edge of what's possible. So I had to be very, very careful with that histogram. Make sure it wasn't clipping, or the minimum of clipping at either end. And then just finding that little decisive moment when things are happening, we're all lined up, we've got everything in the right place, boom. 18 to 55mm lens again. Sorry, I don't know the focal length. One more. I also wanted to try and find a boat and isolate it. A ship, really. Now the Mekong flows quite quickly. It's not a slow, meandery thing. It's quite strong. And the boat Melissa and I were using was very, very small, with a little puck engine. We had our boatman on there. And we had Min, sorry Min, I forgot your name earlier. Min, our fixer, and Ben, the driver, with us. and we're exploring around. We want to try and get a shot of a single boat. Now we couldn't keep our little boat still because the current's too strong. So we were having to circle all the time, asking the boatman, can we go this way a bit? Can we go that way a bit? We found this boat. We circled around probably 3 or 4 times. Each time sort of moving out a little further, trying to find the place where it would all line up beautifully, so that we'd have the boat running left to right through the frame, running back to the sun, that incredibly bright area in that hazy sky and the remnants of the sunrise going on. We got the highlight down the side of the boat and on the water. And it was just a case of finding the place where that was going to happen and the focal length. So again, we're circling around, a couple of test shots, keep checking that histogram, find the place where the exposure is going to be right, because when that decisive moment comes, I want to shoot it. This was not a drive-by shooting. This is probably 15 minutes work went into this. Now look, there's a couple of people sitting up there drinking coffee on the edge of the boat, and as we've been going round and round, the guy had come up and he's sort of, what's going on? Somebody going round and round our boat, And we waved and we smiled and we called good morning. We said hello, sing chow, which is hello. And he calls down to his wife. She comes up and they've got coffees and they wave and they're smiling at us. Remember the lady right back at the beginning, and I showed her the photo. Yeah? This is what I mean about interacting with the environment, because it pays dividends with the people who live in your environment. So we're waving and we're talking and they're laughing at us as we go round, and probably the 3rd time round after they come up, we just found the right place at the right angle and boom, we've got it. But now we've not only got the ship, the boat, in the river, and the sunrise. We've now got the people who live there. So that was a piece of luck, but it's also part of photographer skill in using your personality to talk to these people, to engage them and bring them on your side. It doesn't take much in Asia. The people are just so lovely. I don't know how to tell you guys how lovely they are, and it really moves me, just the way they invite you into their lives. And are so generous. We have everything we could imagine and wish for in our society, and yet we're miserable most of the time. Why are you looking at me? Why are you taking my picture? Grizzling and griping. And these wonderful people are just so generous, and that's why we do social enterprise work. That's why we work with Mekong Plus out there, because then if any of you guys who are coming with us already, and anybody who wants to join us, you know, you are supporting them in doing good work in other areas. I'm not going to go into that now. Sorry, I went off on a tangent. Yeah, so we'd shot this, and I just want to show you also one final little detail. We then went off to get breakfast from the breakfast lady. It's just amazing, you know. It's like we just sort of Ben or somebody, you know, there's a bloke, and they wave, and the breakfast lady ties her little boat up, and she cooked us breakfast right next to our boat there. And I'm not joking, it was the nicest breakfast I think I had in Vietnam. Now bear in mind, we were staying in some pretty nice hotels when we just did the workshop in North Vietnam. Melissa and I were going far more budget when we were doing the recce, but oh my word, that breakfast was good. It was absolutely brilliant. That's Melissa there on the right of the shot. If you don't really follow our Facebook, you may not know Melissa, but if you see the name Melissa on YouTube comments, that is our Melissa Fox. We've worked together. She's worked for me now for what, 7 years I think it is. And she is an amazing photographer and a brilliant person. And I just want to give you a little close-up as well, because look, breakfast. No, not of Melissa. Breakfast. That was just the most amazing breakfast. It's another little detail. It's another piece of travel photography, you know. Put the chopsticks on there, that crinkly wood, a little bit of river. We're saying a little bit about it, not just going in and going, I've got some food, you know. If you're going to do a bit of food photography, say something about where you're enjoying it. What is your experience of eating it? The chopsticks and the food on that little bit of the deck of our boat, and you can see, you know, it's just wonderful textures and a little bit of muddy river. So I hope that's been of some use to you guys, but that's kind of my take on the whole travel photography thing, you know. The thing is, you've got to put yourself out there. You've got to put in the effort. You do have to think about what you're doing. Now, I know a question which will almost certainly come up is going to be, I'm going on a tour to somewhere and I'm going to be on the bus, and it won't be at the optimum time of day, and we'll all get off the bus and have 20 minutes, and I want to know how to get shots like that. You can't. I'm sorry. You can't. Or if you do, you're very lucky to have got them, because if you're there at the wrong time of day, the light will be all wrong. You will not have had time to connect with the surroundings or with the people. All you can do is use your skills to make the best you can. There'll be memory shots. Some of them might be really good memory shots. I'm not knocking them. But to go in deep, you have to go in deep. With no guarantee of success, I should add. We don't know. We may have gone to the floating market and it might not have worked. We may have gone to Train Street and it might not have worked. There might not have been a train coming through. Who knows? There are no guarantees in this life apart from one, and that is if you do nothing, it's guaranteed that nothing will happen. If you stay within a comfort zone, nothing will happen. You do have to step out. And I really hope some of you guys will come and join us this autumn. We've got a couple of weeks left. We've got a few places. So if you want to come, go to my website. I will put a link on underneath this video where you can go and find out more. We'd love to see you. Okay, so end of the lecture. I apologise, that's gone on a little longer than I thought. I'm hoping you've sent in some questions. I am just looking for my communication device. Wow, Melissa has been very busy throwing in questions. Oh my word. Wow, look at this lot. You can't see this lot, so I'm just talking nonsense. Right, let me see what I can come up with for you. Michael Di Domenico, how many different lenses combination do you use and what are they used for? I've just told you earlier. I use the 3 lenses, but almost everything I shoot is 18 to 55 millimeters. Click the link below to Mike's Picks and go and have a look. There's a whole pile of them there, and I think you will see the vast majority are with the 18 to 55 millimeter lens. When you broadcast, what camera does a professional photographer use? Just a webcam, or can you plug your big digital camera? I use a phone. Sorry, when I broadcast on location, I use a phone. I haven't got time to faff about. That's it. I just use a phone. I got my iPhone. I got a little radio, not radio, you know, one of these things, a little microphone plugged into it. Gary, what place would you really love to visit and take pictures, Mike? Oh, you'll be here all day. Sorry, Gary. You'll be here all day. Anywhere I haven't been yet, basically. But I particularly like the sound of South America. I really want to explore some of South America. I really want to go to Laos as well, in Asia. There's things in Russia I'd very much like to see and photograph too. They really push my boat. Simon Taplin Photography. Taplin, I think you've already seen my bandana. You see, Mr. Taplin is actually sitting there in the audience. He's being a lazy bastard instead of joining in, coming all the way to England just so we can do this together. But anyway, yeah, as I said, the bandana, it stops the sweat going in your eyes. It's well worth having. Thank you, Mr. Taplin. Jacob Kuthan, do you use any lens with fixed focal length? No, I don't. I want to be able to move fast. I don't want to be carrying extra lenses and spare stuff. Simon does. Simon quite often shoots with an 80mm on full frame, you know, a very wide aperture, 1.8, I don't know what it is, very wide aperture lens. He does quite a lot of work just with one of those. Personally, no, I prefer to use my 18 to 55 because it gives me a bit more versatility. Dave S. Mike, do you ever adjust the diopter in the viewfinder or just shoot with... No, I never shoot with my glasses on because they get in the way. I always have the diopter for my eyes. So I wear these sorts of glasses because I can stick them down here on the end of my nose, and now you have all gone blurry on screen. But it means, hopefully you can see this, I can go like this, right? So the glasses don't get in the way. The diopter's set for my eyes. I can absolutely see what I'm doing in the viewfinder. But I do need the glasses to read what I'm doing on the camera and to look at the controls. So there you go. There's the action. Look at that. Rock and roll. Ian Cook, are you still a fan of the tripod, or is the ISO better on the Fuji? You allow fast shutter speeds so you don't have to use a tripod. Yes and no, actually. Interesting question. I do like tripods, and there are times you've got to use one, particularly if you want to shoot at night or in super low light, or you want to move, you know, you want movement, you want to blur things, you want to use filters, ND filters and grads and things like that, then you're going to need to use a tripod to do that. My preferred option is to use a higher ISO. You've seen from the sorts of shots that we've been through here, none of them really require a tripod. And that is what I prefer to shoot. I'm not at all shy of shooting at a high ISO. As you saw, the shots of Train Street here. Here it is. The shot of Train Street. You know, we're well over 5,000 ISO. It's absolutely fine. I think you'll find there are others in here as well, which are probably of a very similar ilk. Pete's 1800. When traveling, how many lenses do you take with you? Done that one, sorry. Ian Gordon, Mike, do you use bracketing? Yeah, if I know the histogram, there's no way the histogram is going to capture the highlights and the shadows, then yeah, I will bracket, usually by 2 stops. I'll get the one where I've got maximum data in the histogram, and then I'll go 2 stops below, 2 stops over. Shoot them in burst mode, so it's super fast. You don't need a tripod. Then it's just like, there you go, got it. 3 frames. They've happened faster than you could move, so you don't need a tripod, unless of course you're in low light and you do need a slow shutter speed. I will then just bring them together in Lightroom, but I don't bracket, and this is important. Don't bracket because you don't know what exposure you should use. These are things you should know. These are things you need to learn. These are things you need to practice. There's no excuse because the camera has a histogram. There's no excuse not to be able to get your exposure right. Jan Eigel, Sorry, I can't read the rest of it. Do you deal with protecting your equipment from being stolen or robbed? No, I've never felt the need. I'm a big believer that if you think it'll happen, it will happen. Interestingly, in Asia, the little hotel where we stay in Siem Reap, we're there for a week on this workshop. I don't even lock my hotel door. No one's going to touch anything. I just don't. You know, there's MacBooks and lenses and video cameras and hard drives lying around all over. I don't even lock the door. No one's going to touch anything. Okay, it's in a little private courtyard. Don't get me wrong, it's a little boutique hotel. But people are really, really amazing. It is such. This is what I meant earlier when I said it's a different culture. If you're going into where all the what's the word? Have I lost my connection? It looks like I've lost my connection. Have I dropped? I don't know. Melissa, tell me, am I still live? Because something weird's going on. Okay, I don't know if I'm live or not. I'm just going to keep going for a minute. But it looks like it's all gone wrong. Hang on. Am I still live? Anyway, I'm going to keep going, whether I'm live or not. And hopefully I am. No, when it comes to having things stolen, no. In fact, in Myanmar, we didn't even bother. We didn't even take things out of the boat. We were just leaving things there. Oh, good. Melissa's come back to me. I am still live. Sorry, there's something out on my screen. It says I'm not. It says it's dropped, connection broken, but I'm trusting Melissa because she's watching. Okay, I love to travel. I have some great pictures from Peru. This from Stan Cook, but not just Machu Picchu, but some little known places. I digress. Do you have a favourite app you use to plan any of your shots? No, I use local knowledge. I speak to local people. I don't use an app for anything. Jared Collins, how do you approach someone who would like to photograph? Any tips for the shy guys out there? Yeah, the only way out of your comfort zone is to step out of it. I'm sorry, that's all there is. You might think, oh, I'd like to photograph these people, but I don't know how to go about it. You feel uncomfortable, so you do it. You choose a situation, you do it, and then you look back on the situation and go, wow, I'm still here, and I got quite a nice picture. And then you do it again, and then it starts to become comfortable. If you really want to learn how to do it, come on the workshop with us in September, because it is a whole different world. It is a whole different world. Eric Lyons, from all the countries and cities you visited, which one boasts the most diverse photo opportunities? They all do. They all do. Asia, I would say, in general, is my favourite place because there's always crazy stuff happening. You know, my love is travel photography, not just landscape. And in Asia, there's always something happening. There's always something busy going. There's always a place like Train Street. There's usually someone going past riding a moped, carrying a donkey or something like that. There's always something amazing and vibrant and exciting to photograph. And because I like photographing life and people, and the people are so friendly, it makes it very, very easy. Rex Richardson, what is the bravest thing you've ever done when it comes to photography and travelling? I don't feel I've done anything particularly brave when it comes to the sort of thing we're discussing here. If you watch, it's archived. There's a live stream here called The Photo That Changed Everything. Go and look at that. That is the bravest thing I've done. Or the most courageous, because I was frightened. In reality, it wasn't dangerous, but I was frightened. I had to leave my comfort zone and go and do something I was really, really scared to do. And it revolutionized everything for me. Go and look at it. It's called The Photo That Changed My Life. What's the food like? Can't quite pick your name up there. In Asia, it's just stunning. I showed you my breakfast on Chow Dot Market. I'm not joking. It is beautiful food. It's beautiful food. And also, of course, on the workshop, we take you to places that are nice places. We do take you to nice places. But I mean, the street food's fantastic. I love it. Percy Pratt, let's say I'm traveling solo. Where would you suggest I go that is safe enough while also diverse enough? Anywhere. This is what I mean when I say you've got to stop thinking about the world in terms of fear because of the culture we live in. We are fed on a diet of fear, and it makes me fucking angry because all we hear on the news, all we hear on the paper is fear this, fear that, worst typhoon, worst storms ever. It's going to rain a bit. That's all. Please stop thinking the world is a dangerous place. It bloody well isn't. Yes, there are terrorist attacks. Yes, of course there are some dreadful things happen. But they are so rare. Such tiny instances. Taken into the whole vast context of the world, you are far more likely to get hurt walking across the street to your local tobacconist or beer shop or bar. Really. When the Paris bombings happened, somebody wanted to come to Iceland with us, and he'd actually booked and said, no, I'm not coming now because it's too dangerous to come to Europe. And I had a look on the the Travel in Australia website thing put up by the British government. It's, oh, don't go there. There's typhoons and there's poisonous snakes and there's poisonous this and there's poisonous that, and you're all going to die if you go to Australia. This fear that we are constantly fed is purely to sell copy around the news. News is no longer news, it is a commodity to be sold alongside advertising space. The human brain is hardwired to notice dangerous situations. It comes from our caveman days. Trust me, the world is a much more benevolent and safe place than you would imagine. I had, I think, 3-4 friends in Paris the night of the Paris bombings, which was a dreadful thing. I'm not saying it wasn't. What a catastrophe. What a horrific thing for the people and the families to go through. But if you look at the number of people within Paris who were affected, it's not even 1%. If you look at the number of people in France who were affected, it's starting to disappear. You look at the people around the world, it's such a small fraction. You would need a scanning electron microscope to see it. Please, guys, stop thinking of the world as a frightening place. It isn't. And if you think it is, be brave, step up, move out into it, and suddenly you'll go, wow, it's pretty good. Lady lives in the deep south of America, came all the way to England. She's never left her own state. She came to England last summer to do a one-to-one day with me. Gina Heaton. Gina, if you're watching, I salute you, because she was really scared. She was afraid she'd come to England and everyone would think she was an idiot from America and not know what to do. And it opened a world for her just by coming over here for a couple of days, stepping out of that comfort zone. I think, Gina, you're a very brave lady, and I'm just so delighted as to what's going on for you now. Greg Logan, exactly what is it you want to say with your photographs, and how do you actually get your photographs to do that? If you missed this live broadcast, Greg, I suggest go back and watch it again. That's what we've just been talking about. Vincent Fox, for shots like the boat shots, do you use manual focus or autofocus? Generally autofocus. Again, as I say, you choose your focus mode appropriately for the shot you're taking. There is no rule that says for boats you need to use autofocus. You learn what the modes do, you learn how to control the camera and what all these tools you have at your fingertips are, and then you choose them appropriately. It's a bit like saying, if you're coming up to a roundabout, would you slow down with the handbrake? No, I'd probably use the foot brake. If you were stopping on a hill, would you use the foot brake to park or the handbrake? No, I'd use the brake that's appropriate for the thing that I'm going to do. You've got to learn what the tool does. Glacier Aviation question, and special tips for when you shoot in very humid areas. How do you keep the electronics happy? I covered that a few moments ago, actually. Yeah, when you're in your air-conditioned room and you come outside, let your camera warm up, don't open it. That's about it. Cameras are pretty rugged. Yeah, that's about it, really. Will it get wet? Yeah, probably. Will it get damaged? No. Just don't open it when it's cold and you're in the humidity. If you're going to change lenses, let it all warm up first. Something I used to do, actually, is, or I do, is I will often put my camera bag, if it's in my room overnight and the aircon's been on, I stick it outside the door and open it, and I just leave it outside for 10 minutes in the sun before we move off, and then everything's warmed up and it's no longer a problem. Summer, do you need permission for taking and selling photographs that have people in them? Does it vary from USA to other countries? Yes, it does. If you're selling pictures, generally speaking, you do need a release signed But again, that varies country to country. I can't answer that question, I'm afraid. Ian Cook, do you find sometimes the shot you thought to be the least likely turns out to be the ace shot? Occasionally, yes. There are often surprises in amongst the test shots where I think, no, it's not very good, I don't like it. But yeah, occasionally. Steve Wright, with the people you meet, do you ever provide them with a copy of your photos? Yes. I don't think I've got it with me. We take... it's a really good idea to do this because many of these people don't have broadband and stuff like that, email addresses. So it is well worth taking a little Polaroid camera and just shoot a few pictures and hand them out to the kids and the people who live there. We use a little Hewlett-Packard wireless printer. You load it with a pack of paper. You can sort of do a few shots wirelessly and you can watch them coming out. Melissa did a great little project called First Photo where she travelled with some tribes in the north of the Philippines, photographing people who'd never had their photo taken before, and took this little printer and gave them pictures. It was sponsored by Kodak. Where are we? Jim Wallace, Mr. Graphic. What program are you using for this live broadcast? It's called Wirecast, Jim. It's called Wirecast. What else we got here? I'm going to do a couple more questions, guys, because time's rolling on. Big Doodle 49. Okay, there's a lot of numbers here. We all know that Asia is not a very expensive country, so why are your workshops around $5,000? Yeah, I can see your point. The thing is, you're not just paying for the workshop, you're also paying for the fact Simon has been out there and spent a couple of weeks recceing, finding locations, making contacts. I was there with Melissa, so that's a flight, that's 2 people's travel costs, etc. Finding the right places to take you, so we know you're going somewhere that's going to be of value and of interest. It's about also, you know, we hire air-conditioned minibuses and drivers. We have local fixers who speak English and Vietnamese. We can't just hit the ground off a plane with you and go, right, I don't know where we're going to stay tonight. Hopefully we'll find something interesting to photograph. Now, there's a cost attached to all of that, plus, of course, insurances and blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, that is what you're paying for. Of course, we need to get our fee, you know. Yeah, we're a business, you know. This is what we do for a living. Sure, it's the cream job within our business, but... yeah, that's what you're paying for. You're paying for all the stuff that happened in the background. Another question someone once asked was, why can't we stay in budget hotels? The thing is, if you're in Vietnam or Cambodia or somewhere in Asia and you're off the beaten track, it's not guaranteed that you're going to have electricity, aircon, stuff like that in a budget hotel. So generally speaking, we go somewhere that's a little bit higher end because we want to be sure that you do get a shower, you do charge your batteries, you can plug in your laptop and do some raw files and all that stuff. What else? Let's just have a look. Is there one more? Oh yeah, come on then. What are your best tips to actually capture the atmosphere of a place? Again, Eva, watch this broadcast. I've just been talking about it. It's your observational skills. It's about trying different things. It's about test shots which lead you to the ultimate capture. Maybe you missed that earlier on. Go back. How do you ask permission to take a portrait if you don't speak the language? Oh, come on, use your imagination. You managed to get this live broadcast working. And I'm sorry if I sound rude. I didn't mean to. But, you know, there you go. That's it, isn't it? Point the camera. No, I'm going to ask you without speaking your language, you know. And then they might go, if you're in Vietnam, there's a dreadful chance they might go like that at you, which I don't want them to do. If they don't want you to, they might go, and that's about it. You can mime anything. I once mimed, can I have a boiled egg for breakfast, please? Anyway, so I think we're there. I'm going to wrap it up at this point, guys. Please, please, please take a look at my other travel photos. There's a link below this live broadcast. Go and have a look through and just have a look and see how minimal the stuff is I use. You don't need a great big bag of things. I think it's better if you don't have one. As for safety, will it be stolen? Highly, highly unlikely. Okay, if you're in, I don't know, a tourist street in Bangkok, that's a very different thing. I wouldn't go to a tourist street in Bangkok. If you are in a village in a rural society and you drop something out of your camera bag. I dropped my wallet once with when photographing a bunch of homeless people in Romania, and a little kid just ran up behind me and goes, hey, 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 handed me my wallet with, you know, traveller's checks and credit cards and all that good stuff in there. So I'm going to wrap it up here, guys. Thank you very much for being with me. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for participating. I loved your questions. If you're someone who's been thinking about coming on the Angkor and the Mekong workshop towards the end of this year, you need to get a move on now. I know historically you guys like to wait to see how many other people are going. It's now time. You've got to stop thinking and start doing if you want to come with us. There are some non-photographer places available. If you want to bring a partner, you're most welcome to do that. They don't actually come on the classroom photography sessions at the hotel and the feedback and all the rest of it, but they can go and get a massage or something like that, or go around the bazaar while we're doing it. But all the places we go, yep, they come with us. They get to see all the wonders which you wouldn't see if you just went with a tourist company. Thank you for watching. It has been a privilege and a pleasure to spend an hour or so with you guys. I look forward to next time. Best wishes and take care.